What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with another episode of Lone Wolf with Dub. I know I've been promising this review for a while. It's been a couple months, actually. I just got really fucking busy. A lot of different stuff going on my channel with so much different topics and whatnot, and things come up. And then, of course, MDF was there about a month ago. I've been doing a lot of collaborations with other content creators, as you know, if you pay attention to this channel at all. Even tonight, I might have a guest appearance on a new channel, so I'll see how that goes. I'm not really entirely sure yet, but they did contact me last night to guest and talk about Godzilla 54 with them, so we'll see how that goes. Be more than happy to do that, of course. I am a big Godzilla and Kaiju fan, so definitely looking forward to that. I'll tell you more stuff coming up this weekend at the end. But we're reviewing Ong Bak, Muay Thai Warrior from 2003. Muay Thai, I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm very bad at this. Directed by Pracha Pinkau. Cast consists of Tony Jaa, who plays Ting. Pamori Yagkamal plays Mia Lek, and then Futai Vankamala plays Hamle or George. He has two names in this. Plot is when the head of a statue sacred to the village is stolen, a young martial artist goes to the big city and finds himself taking on the underworld to retrieve it. For those that don't know, Tony Jaa is big name now. Back then, not so much. In fact, to me, it wasn't. Ong Bak was the first film I'd seen him in, and so like, it is weird to me sometimes because like I remember when I saw Jet Li for the first time in Lethal Weapon 4, I thought that was like his kind of first appearance, at least in American films. But Jet had been around for quite a while. Same with oh my god, shit, Donnie Yen. Sorry. When I saw Ip Man, I thought, oh, Donnie's like this new face. Dude's been around forever. And so like, but that's sort of the problem for me is that I'm not always keeping up with foreign films as much as I should, especially martial arts. So whenever these guys end up coming into the US market, I fucking start paying really big attention because that's sort of what I see first. And then I kind of go back and start checking out their other work. So, but Ong Bak was like kind of like the breakout film for Tony. He did Ong Bak 2 and 3, Protector 1 and 2. He appeared when he started really catching fire. Furious 7 with the Fast and the Furious with Furious 7. He played a villain in that. And then a great movie he did with Iko Uwais and Scott Adkins and Michael J. White called Triple Threat. Monster Hunter. And then the Expendables 4, which I have not seen yet. I don't know if it's good or bad. But he did make it. I think Iko was in that one too, I think. But I need to kind of catch that. But I'm glad that Tony's starting to get these other roles in some of the American films and whatnot. He's an incredible, talented martial artist. But this film, always starts out in the village. You know, all these young men are going up to this tree. And I forget what they're trying to grab, but the idea is you're going to be the last one in the tree. So they're kind of fighting and kicking their way up the tree to get each other and knocking each other down far. It's like they're taking some beatings, but Ting wins. And so now he is like sort of the protector spokesman for the Ong Bak, which is a statue that they worship to give them like good crops, rain, and all that stuff. It's part of their religious faith. Now, the plot here is when the head of the statue, sacred to the village, is stolen, a young martial artist goes to the big city and finds himself taking on the underworld to retrieve it. So, yeah, even in this little village, they have guys that come through that are either trying to fleece them for money or, it's almost like the collecting, like the bad dudes are collecting the tax or some shit. It's really weird. But you have these guys from the city who come in and they're just try and get money or valuable items from this little village to go sell. And this, especially this one guy who comes to the village because he owes this crime lord like money, and you need to bring him stuff, and the crime lord collects rare relics and stuff. So for financial gain, of course. So what ends up happening? The village doesn't have anything to really give this guy, so he ends up coming late at night and stealing the head of Ong Bak, and so he's going to try to take that to the crime lord now. Now it's Ting's job to go and retrieve it because, due to their faith, they believe, without that head back and the statue intact, that their village is going to crumble and have a drought and all this other stuff. So Ting is told by one of the villagers who is there that he has a cousin named Humley who has moved to the city to seek him out. They give him a little bit of cash and have a little note from Dad to go, hey, Humley will help you find this statue. And so Ting makes his way to the city, and he does find Humley eventually, but Humley is now going by the name of George. And George and this young lady, Miai Lick, they're basically con artists who try to steal and connive a way to get money out of people, whether it's playing cards or like a race on motorbikes where they pretend they don't know each other, but then they're in on a deal to try to scam money out of the people they're doing, but they're not very good at it because George, aka Humley, is always getting caught red-handed being deceitful. So anyway, eventually Humley takes Ting to his apartment, and immediately George gets, I'm going to go back and forth between Humley and George, so forgive me, but he gets a phone call saying, hey, there's some choreographed fights, at the bar where you can, place your bets and gamble on the fights. And so he takes the money that Ting has from the village, not just the money that his dad gave him, but the money that was to help Ting survive in that short period of time because they didn't have a lot in the city while he tries to find the head. He takes the money and he goes to the bar. Now, of course, Ting catches on shortly after and chases him down in the bar where he tries to get his money back from George, and George's like, well, the dude in the center, the ring caller, has the money because he's the one that takes all the bets for the fights. And right now we have this guy who's like fucking up this other Thai dude pretty well. It's an American dude. And so we get our first taste of where Ting is he's not supposed to use this fighting skill. He was taught by a monk who said, you're never to use this. I'm assuming it was mainly just for defensive purposes, but in this case, Ting's already being tested to where he has to go and actually get the money back somehow. And he doesn't even really care because you can win a lot of big money through these fights because they're just massively financial. Like tons of people in there. The crime lord, who is named Kum Tuan, is upstairs with the other guy who's rich, and they kind of plays bets on the fights, even though Kum Tuan, he pretty much has the inside scoop. He knows the fighters in the bar, so he always tries to scam the other dude out of money. So immediately right off the bat, when Ting is going to go confront this fighter who's currently the champion, the crime lord, he's like, hey, okay, I'll place a bet 10-1 that my white boy is going to beat Ting. They don't know who Ting is, but the crime lord's so arrogant about it that there's just no one's going to beat him. And so the other guy's like, you're already kicking my ass, so why not? I think he said he's bet like a straight million just to go with it. So that's how much money these guys got to play with. And so immediately, which shocks the entire bar, Ting does like one kick with his knee to the dude's stomach and just lays him out. Like he comes rushing at him, raises up and hits him and just lays his ass out. One hit, and everyone's like quiet. And so the ringleader guy, the announcer, he's like, "Hey, oh, you want the money?" And he's like, "No, I just want my money I got from the village." Like, and of course, George and Miyagi are like, "What the fuck are you doing? You got a lot more money. You can come to your way." So George is constantly thinking about now how he can make money off Ting's fighting skill. Uh, but Ting gets his money back. That's all he wanted, and he leaves. And of course, the crime lord and the guy next to him is like excited. He's like, "Yeah, man, thanks. That was a great call." He won $1 million, so it pisses off the crime lord, but we don't see much from at that point after that. But what ends up happening is because George and Miyagi constantly get in trouble with these street gangs and stuff like that when they try to scam them out of money. So, George owes like a lot of money to different people. So they're constantly running for their lives against these gangs and who are trying to collect. And this forces Ting to kind of like step in and physically beat these guys. And then there's cat and mouse running around trying to avoid them. Uh, and then again, they're still trying to track down the lost head because, this needs to happen for Ting to get it back to the village. And eventually, this leads to a second bar fight, which raises the attention because when Kum Tuan and the other guy who's with them see that Ting walks back in the bar, we have a current fighter, which is Black Bear, pretty big, long hair, black dude, fucking shit up, big talker. Uh, so the crime lord wants to kind of like instigate an issue where he gets Ting involved to fight again because like he's really pissed off about that first fight losing that money. And so I'm gonna kind of show you in the background the fight. This is a consecutive fight where he fights Black Bear. I don't know who the second guy's name. He's very quick, has a bad hairdo, but very good, skilled fighter. And then the last guy is more of like a chaotic. It's funny because they all like act like he's the worst of the bunch, but I think that either Black Bear or the second dude are better fighters. But the third guy just uses anything like chairs and knives and stuff. So he's kind of like supposedly he's called Mad Dog. He's like supposedly the top fighter. But not really so much the case. But as we're talking about this, I'll just show you what's going on in here. That's Black Bear there. So he's already instigating this fight now. Like he's trying to piss off, and of course Ting's in there because he's helping some other Thai guy who was trying to step up and save a girl that he was harassing, Black Bear. And just the skill, man. The choreography is fucking amazing. Boom. Love this shit. And the funny thing is, I don't even know. Like, I know these guys practice this shit to the point that like you really don't want to hurt the opponent, but like they have to be hitting each other in some way. And I know it's controlled, but man, like it's just so good. Uh this fight with Black Bear is amazing, but this goes on for a while. And of course, you saw the moment where George there was talking to the ringleader announcer about, hey, whatever money he gets or wins, if he wins, give it to me. Like he doesn't want Ting to like disregard the money again because Ting's only here to try to get the statue back, which he followed the main guy who stole it initially there. And so, again, we're just going through these fights here. It's really quite amazing. And like now, of course, he's beaten Black Bear, so now he thinks he's gonna leave. Like, and the crowd, like, nah, we're not gonna let you go. This guy's having a heart attack because he's pissed off. He's losing money after money after money because I think he went into the Black Bear fight saying, "Hey, do 2-to-1." He lowered his risk, but now that's Mad Dog. He's kind of biding his time. But here's where he's trying to leave. Crowd's like, no, no. And then boom, here comes second dude. Now, this is the dude with the bad haircut. But he's incredibly fast and the skill, but he's got very arrogant, showy, some good fighting skills here. Nope, can't leave. Now they're not gonna threaten him. Like he's just so this is obviously the crime lord making sure that he's staying so that he can try to win his money back. Or the crowd is like, dude, you're just too good of a fighter. We're not letting you leave until you've beaten these dudes. And so that will continue to happen there with the fights. I really really like the Thai fight. It's the sort of stuff that we got a glimpse of, not so much with Ja, but if you remember back when Van Damme did Kickboxer, you know, I think it was Tong Lee was the opponent in that movie. You saw some of this, but Tony has like a whole varied style, like a lot of knees and elbows. And he calls each move. Usually it is with martial arts, like different moves, different names, and so I don't know much of the detail. Now, here's the one thing about this too, and I was going to bring it up towards the end of the thing, but since we're watching some of the fighting here, oh, that's a beautiful shot. Uh, Elephants play like a big part of Tony Jaa's earlier films, and maybe some of you that are more well versed in martial arts of Muay Thai, is this something that's specific to Muay Thai fighting, like the symbolism of the elephant? Because in the Protector and the Ong Bak films, again, the elephants do have a big part of that, especially in the Protector. Um, so I'm wondering if like that's sort of like part of the fighting style. So like maybe that kicks like the trunk, or you know, I don't know. I'm kind of just theorizing here. So but for you that are more in the know of the particular fighting style, maybe if someone could pass this on to Rick Myers, or even some of the guys that are into martial arts a little bit more than I am, as far as like the details of the skills and stuff. I'm always been curious about how the elephant plays a part in that. I'm sure it symbolizes some like strength, intelligence. Damn, dude. Jesus Christ. That's insane. No, no, I'm done, bro. Done. I'm just faking dough, of course. Get a haircut. That's what I'd be saying. And boom. Oh, that's like a knee right to the neck. That fucking hurt like a motherfucker. All right, so Mad Dog, this is his little bit of moment to shine. I'm not gonna show all of it because we're gonna move on, but he's supposed to be like the final boss in terms of this particular fight. Now, there's a guy behind Come Tuan there who's like his bodyguard, so we're gonna get to him in a little bit. But this is Mad Dog. So, like, see, everyone acts like he's scared, but I don't think he's even the toughest fighter in here. He's just the craziest, maybe. He's like a cheater too. Snake. Yep. Beer bottle didn't even affect Ting. He's like, all right, whatever. Oh, so good. Yeah, so I'm not going to show you all that because there is a point where they end up going upstairs to where the crime boss is and fighting someone. And finally, Ting like basically puts his knees into his chest, and they go out the window that the crime lord is watching, and they lands down the bottom and knocks Mad Dog out. But it's a pretty lengthy fight. Uh, but yeah, there is a point where Mad Dog tries to grab a knife and you know fucking try to stab him and stuff. But that's one of the better scenes in this film in terms of the fight. I mean, there's a lot more street fight stuff and stuff like that. That's cool. The choreography is amazing. But eventually, you know, they keep trying to run away from these gangs and stuff as they leave the bar and stuff. It's you know next day stuff. And eventually, Ting and George, through a chase, end up in the water of the harbor. And as they're swimming, you know, to get unnoticed from the gang chasing them to another part of the harbor, they see a bunch of underwater statues and relics that are wrapped up in nets. And this is a clearly Come Tuan's like stash. So he's hiding all this shit from the police. These are illegal, you know, stolen relics and stuff and statues that he tries to make money on. But obviously, Ting and George like alert the authorities, which the police come and seize all that. Which again, Kam Tuong loses all this fucking money due to these losses. So now Come to on kidnaps Muay Thai Lek, the girl, and is going to hold her hostage until Ting comes and fights his number one bodyguard. Can't remember his name, but pretty good fighter. He's pretty pissed off dude too. He's always got this scowl on his face, but he it's a ring fight. But what they've done is and he has, again, the crime lord has his buddy there who's making the bets, but buddy doesn't know that crime lord is like basically fixed the match. He's told Ting, you want this girl back, you're gonna throw this fight. And so he allows this other dude just to like beat his ass down and all that. And so this was supposed to get not only some of the money back for the crime lord, but to be able to get Ting to get the head back of the statue so that they can go and, uh, part ways, no more bullshit. But of course, the come to Ong doesn't get the head back. He doesn't give a shit. He said he only cares about himself, only cares about his money. And I guess his plan is they don't really come out and stay, because I was watching this in English dub just because of my ADHD. I'm doing 20 things at once. So even though I've seen this 100 times, but there isn't really anything that says that the crime lord is planning on using him in future fights. But I would think that's maybe what he was thinking, is that you're going to make me some more money back by throwing fights or either winning fights. But that does change a bit, because when the crime lord leaves their little space there, he's telling his thugs to kill them. So he's killing the girl, the Humley, and of course Ting. But they prevent all that. They fight their way out of that, and of course now Ting is going to go chase down the crime lord and fuck some shit up. So eventually all three go, because the other two don't want him to go alone. They care about him for saving them and stuff like that. So they go to this final fight area, and a lot of back and forth, a lot of different fighters in there. And then of course we have a rematch between the bodyguard and Ting. And of course the crime lord's like, look, the first fight was thrown. We're fighting for real now. This guy is not being paid to throw this. And the bodyguard still kind of held his own, but Ting gets the better of him, fucks him up, and then gets shot by the crime lord in the shoulder. And he's almost ready to get killed by the crime lord, but then George comes and tackles him, and they're fighting around. And then one of the bigger heads, that they're in like this space with these other statues, I guess they were trying to take them down and use them for selling goods again. It starts coming loose and falls and kills the crime lord, but some of the debris falls on George, and he's dying at this point. So this is the part of the film where is my biggest issue. And again, budgets always play a part. Storytelling, like it depends on what they were thinking here. But as George is dying, he tells Ting, look after Moy Lake and, take the head back to the village. And so it just sort of like George's redemption, or, coming, because he had left home wanting fame and fortune. And I think even unknown to his parents, who kind of still believed in him, they just wanted him to come back and visit. But he never did. He was all just interested in making money and all this other stuff, the street life. So this was kind of like him just paying his dues. He knew he was dying, so he's like, look, you just got to look after this girl. She was a college girl, getting mixed up in all the scam stuff and con stuff. So we then immediately, when he dies and the tears are flowing, and then we move straight to the end where the village gets their head back. They're celebrating. They got elephants. People are dancing. And of course, they got George's ashes, and of course Mia Lake's there, and she's smiling. I'm like, I don't know, like, even if it's like a week after George's death, like it just jumps from one vibe to the next, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a very uncomfortable, weird ending, because it didn't just credits roll. And so that's really my biggest issue with the movie. It's the ending part of it, because there's no yeah, there's no recollection with the parents, like, he did this to save us, yada, yada, yada. Like, you don't have any of that. Now, maybe there's another cut of this that has a little bit more detail with that. I don't know. But I mean, I've had this DVD forever. It's not even Blu-ray. So, perfect world, I'd go back and get a lot of this shit that I have on Blu-ray. Just everything costs money, and I have so many fucking hobbies. Somebody was just telling me the other day, it's like 16 different spider breeds, dude. Like, that's got to be costly. I was like, yeah, it is. And, you got to pay for the enclosures, the food, everything else. The spiders themselves aren't always cheap. Uh, so, then music. I've got so many different interests that can't do everything at once, but eventually, I'll get there. But again, for those that know a lot more detail about this film, like, is there another cut that has more in-depth, just, at the end there, where we're not just dealing with this hot and cold change of events that's very weird. It doesn't flow. And based upon that, my rating for this film is a 9 out of 10. I wouldn't give it a perfect 10 because of that. That's really the worst part of the film. The rest of it's amazing. Just amazing. It's almost like they just got to the end and said, we got to wrap this shit up. It's like, whatever it was. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about Ong Bak? What do you think about Tony Jaa's career as a fighter, martial artist? Would you give me some ideas what you might think he'd be good in terms of reboots of any kind? We talk about reboots all the time. Hollywood isn't that original, but if they're going to do any kind of reboots or remakes, or even just films in general, like, I'd like to see him work more with Iko Awas and some of the other guys that have come out more recently, in the martial arts world, and worked with them a lot more, because I like Taslim and all of them. Like, I'd love to see more work with them. They're very, very good choreographers and fighters. So my next pick, I promise I'm going to be a little more consistent with this one in terms of this series. I do apologize it took so long, but I am going to try to be more consistent with it. I think I'm going to do Invincible Armor. That's one of my favorite films. A lot of them I've come across within the last 10, 20 years. So I'll be doing that. I know there's some other ones. Right now, I've been sticking with mainly films I'm familiar with, because I want to get the ones I really like out. Like, eventually, I still want to do Five Deadly Venoms. I might even get to some Seagal or Van Damme, even Bruce Lee films at some point. Just, so many movies, so little time, as they say. But I think Invincible Armor would be a good choice. The last one I think I did was the Seven Grandmasters. If you haven't seen that, my review for that's up there. So check that out, and then I'll see you next time on the Metal Time. Oh yeah. Before I go, I almost fucked it up. So I told you I might be talking with a new channel about Godzilla 54 tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, my time. Kevin Lambert from the Entertainment Headquarters is doing a MonsterVerse revisiting, like going back, talking about the MonsterVerse, how it influenced a lot of the stuff coming up from Toho, like Shin or Minus One. I say influence lightly, because those moves are vastly different than what Legendary is doing, but it kind of had a resurgence of kaiju, and America was a big part of that. So I think we're going to revisit a lot of the Legendary stuff, probably including the Monarch series that recently came out on Apple TV. And then Saturday, I'll be hosting a review for The Crow, one of my all-time favorite films, starring Brandon Lee. I've seen it a gazillion times. I saw it like 3 or 4 times in the theater. However, Jedi Veil, Walter Ross, had never seen it until recently. So this is more about doing a review with him and maybe some other guests. I don't know who's all going to be there to talk about this film, how we feel about it, and how Walter felt about it, because he had never seen it. So I'm very curious if he comes away with it in the same manner that I do. Like, I still get very emotional about the film for different reasons. One, the story is incredibly good, but two, for those that don't know, that was a film that Brandon Lee died on set because of a piece of shrapnel getting in one of the prop guns and killing him. And so again, I'll talk a little bit more about the supposed Bruce Lee curse and how that at the time kind of played an idea or a factor that kind of led people to believe that was part of it. Even though I think Linda Lee had come out and said there really was not a curse. But when you have weird things like that happen, because I take a lot of this granted, again, like if you ever saw Dragon, the Bruce Lee story with Jason Scott Lee, they talk a little bit about this curse that supposedly was haunting the family. Whether or not it's accurate, no idea. At the time, I thought, oh shit, this is really whack shit, right? So we might dive into some of that. So yeah, anyway, give me your thoughts on this film. How do you feel about it? And I'll see you next time on the Meltdown Radio Podcast.